Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. It's a byproduct of a fucked up civilization. You know, they don't have this problem in Sweden. They take care of you from the womb to the tomb. Although we have Swedish people come to the seminar that don't like that. They can never make more than 55,000 euros a year. They have no expenses. Everything's paid for. But they can, you know, there's no, other than the super rich families in Sweden that were there for 500 years ago, I mean, everybody's in the same income strata, more or less. All the restaurants, except for the few Michelin star restaurants, they have the same food, the same price. I mean, it's just the same. And, you know, some people don't want that. But we've rolled up in Sweden. We rolled up caravan parks in Sweden. It's one of the only things that's not socially supported by the government. It's like mobile home parks, but caravans, the little ones. I mean, this is... Some countries, the more socialistic the country, the slightly harder it is to do. But it's still possible. It's still possible. Okay, we know that. Okay, we know that. Now, I went back and I was looking at your files and I was looking at emails that we got during the week. And one of the other things that I forgot to mention that the successful kids do is they're all super enthusiastic. Not as enthusiastic as me, but a lot more enthusiastic than you. Now, I know you're not here to be enthusiastic, okay? But I mean, it's like I come in here every day and it's like I come into a funeral parlor. Now, you're probably laughing and giggling and have a better time when I'm not in the room. Okay, fine. But I mean, it's like all of you ought to be in the death roll-up, in my opinion. I mean, you know, so far, one or two of you have shown me any sales skills whatsoever. Let's just say that I'm right and my perception is correct. Perception is reality. If you don't have any sales skills and you're not enthusiastic, this is going to be a tough motherfucker for you. So I'm going to give you, Sally gives you the benefit of the doubt, whether they're just, you know, they're trying to be, you know, I don't know what they're trying to be. So assuming that you've got more enthusiasm than you've exhibited here, and assuming that you've got a modicum of sales ability, which you haven't shown here yet, but if you don't, and that's why I tell you about the sales courses. That's why I talked to you in the various QLA bots that have talked to you, have talked about the Toastmasters, etc. But I mean, if you got to show passion. A couple of you that talked about your goals sounded passionate, you know. The kid here sounded over the top. Okay, well, that's fine. I would rather you embarrass yourself sounding over the top than not. And right now, most of you are on that end of the continuum. I'm just, and again, you're not trying to be me, but you got to be enthusiastic. I remember at my 20-year high school reunion, the girl that my first date of my life was there, and I had practiced 2-3 weeks to ask her out. And she came in wearing a flowery dress, and she looked like wallpaper. She looked like the side of a bus. She was as big as the side of a bus as well. And I thought to myself, what the fuck? I spent 5 weeks practicing with my little mother how to ask her out, and Jesus Christ. At that same reunion, our class, valedictorian, I think it's called, number 1 in the class, graduated. Everybody thought he was going to be an astronaut. He came in, he weighed about, I don't know if he weighed 300 pounds, but he looked like he weighed 300 pounds. And when you're talking to him over cocktails, and he drank orange juice, nothing wrong with it, he was a drill operator. You know, a drill operator where he's pulling down a drill press in Sacramento, California. This is the valid motherfucking Victorian. Got 1,600 on the SATs, straight A's, honor this, honor that, honor this. And his wife came late. She didn't weigh 500 pounds, but goddamn, she sure as hell weighed 400 pounds. And there's nothing wrong with weighing 400 pounds. And they met at Stanford together when they looked normal. His IQ was off the charts. They couldn't measure his fucking IQ. I wasn't interested in her details. I was afraid that shit was going to rub off on me. When she walked this way, I walked that way. When she walked that way, I walked that way. Because they used to say cooties. I don't know if they say that anymore. I was afraid that her cooties were going to get on me. They what? Now it's called bi. Okay, well, I sure as fuck knew I wasn't going to catch that shit. This is just a joke, God. Better I got AIDS than that. Okay. In my first high school reunion, they hadn't come up with AIDS yet. They hadn't figured out what that was. But anyway. But you got to show some enthusiasm, guys. And the more confidence you have, the more enthusiastic you'll be. The more presence you have. Because you're going to fool them in the beginning the way you look. But, some of you in here, and this is not a speaker's forum. I understand that. But I've talked to 2/3 of you, 3/4 of you, one-on-one now. And maybe with one exception, you couldn't give a blowjob away to a drunken sailor that had been at sea 10 years. And if you can't give a blowjob away to a fucking drunken sailor, I mean, that's the worst when you're in the military. That's the nadir. I mean, that's the lowest form of life. I mean, because drunken sailors will fuck a snake if he held his head still. I mean, and if you can't give away oral sex to a drunken sailor, that shows you that you're just the scum of the earth. And you better develop some sales skills. Otherwise, you're going to be on the 6, 8, 10, 12-year program, which we've had some. I've already told you. Some of you are in business as well. They come to you. You don't have to go out and be personable. Well, there's not too many of those models left. Now, another thing I only touched upon once in the seminar, I rearranged some slides after lunch. 75% of the people you're going to talk to aren't decision makers. Remember, are you the owner? Are you the principal? And if they say, well, there's more than one owner, and he says he's the junior owner, you don't want to talk to him. You don't want to waste your breath. And when you make presentations vis-a-vis buying from the motivated sellers, you want all the decision makers in the room at once. Everybody is going to be part of that decision. If it's a husband, wife, a cousin, a grandma, every swinging dick that's going to sign that fucking piece of paper. Unless and only if that person you're talking to has power of attorney. Dan, yes, I expect you to ask all those questions. Otherwise, you're going to be given 6 presentations, 5 of which are to the wrong people. Do you have the power to sell this business on your own? Do you have the power to sign for your dad, your uncle, whoever? And if they don't want to tell you, next. And unfortunately, it takes you 3 phone calls to get to the right person, the decision maker. And so now you feel you're vested almost because you've got this time invested. Next. It should take you 10, 20, maximum 30 seconds to find out if he or she or it is the person that can sell the business. And another thing I only touched upon briefly the first day, when they say no, why no? But if they can't answer you in 10, 20, 30 seconds, thank you very much. Well, it's obviously more complicated, but, next. And I used to say, when you can uncomplicate your sales process, you have my number. And some people would say that's rude. Some of you think it's rude, but it's effective. And, to hear Andres on the phone now as compared to 2.5 years ago, 28 acquisitions ago, and 82 zillion calls ago, he's not the same person. He just isn't. Now he gets pissed off. Time's money. Time's money. When you start valuing yourself higher, I'm not looking for business. I get 10,000 pounds an hour. People still hire me. 10,000 pounds an hour. And 1 minute is 30 minutes. So for me to pick up the phone, it's $5,000. I tell them, come to the seminar. You get more bang for your buck. I tell them, read my book online for free. It's the best bang for buck. But people still hire me. My time, and I'll probably up it next year. Because there's no lines across inelastic demand. I've been at the top of my game several years, and the more right I am, the more people want to talk to me. And when you start doing deals, the more deals you do, the more deals will come to you. But you've got to get that momentum. You've got to get that deal flow. You've got to get the deal flow. And it's just like in athletics, teams get on streaks, 14 games, 6 games, 3 games, whatever. And it's tough, and whoever said it's not easy to get on top, but it's easier to get there than stay there. And your company, your employees, all want to be part of a winning team. All want to be part of a winning team. Yeah, I said that. You know that your problems are between your ears. Most important part of the process. And I can't emphasize this enough. You're going to have these templates. I told you not to just read them. I told you to go over them over and over and over. I told you that I spent an hour, for every hour I'm with you, I spent an hour before in preparation. And I could give this fucking seminar. I know what slide 1926 is. I know what slide 2128 is. I know what slide 118 is. I could give this fucking thing in a coma. Probably when I stop, we're going to do a hologram that is going to kind of look and sound like me, like these pictures of me running around. Okay. Hi, I'm Dan Peña. Have a nice day. Well, that'll be a lie. You'll know if I say that. That'll be a fucking lie. Preparation. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough. You've heard them all say preparation. Practice, practice, practice. And part of that preparation is continuing to immerse yourself so you don't have to think about the word. There's 25 or 30 phrases, nomenclature, that, and that's a minimum, that when you not understand the meaning behind the words, but when you understand when to use the words, use that nomenclature, I mean, you'll be in like Flynn. I mean, you'll make a gazillion purchases from the motivated sellers. And you'll be able to, you won't worry when somebody leaves the board because you'll know how to replace them. And when you get your board gelling, that they're assisting you, and now when Andreas and several of the other people that you listen to, they're opening up their contact lists. And even though Andreas still makes cold calls, and you've heard, not everybody, but almost everybody said that the best deals that they've come from cold calls. You've heard some of them say the best deals have come from people that aren't on the market. And you've heard at least, perhaps the most successful couple, the Carlings, say that not represented by any brokers. But now you know how to deal with the brokers and how you can get them on your side by being part of the solution instead of the part of the problem. Yeah.
Just a quick comment regarding the brokers. So when you say you had to disclose it,
no, you have to disclose.
Yeah,
it.
I understand that. Do you just tell the seller that I'm paying the broker?
No, well, yeah, you asked. This is one of the templates. Mr. Seller, do you mind if we enhance the sales process by getting your broker on board? And he'll say, well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, it's legal and it's possible and it's very useful if I offer to pay fully disclosed, pari passu with you, the commission that you're paying. The first words out of his mouth are normally, well, you don't have to do that. I'm paying. We understand that. But even though he represents you and he should represent a best deal for you, for selfish reasons, he may not. But when we bring him on board and we both pay him, I can guarantee you absolutely, like God made green apples, he will be 1,000% behind the deal. And 99 times out of 100, the seller will say, fine. Once in a while, you get somebody, that says no. But 99 times out of 100, the seller will say, fine. And the broker will say, yes, before you get halfway through the fucking sentence. And I'll also say, I've never had a deal not close when the broker got paid both sides. I've never had a deal not close. I'll also tell you, I've never had a deal not close, not on some of the small deals, but I've never had a reasonable sized deal not close that was on a success fee basis. It's in the best interest of the accountants and the lawyers to close the deal. And they do everything professionally possible to close the deal. Yep.
And if there is anything, they will back you up, right?
Anything that will back you up. What does that mean?
That means if there are any problems, they will do anything.
Correct.
To get it done.
Correct.
Thank you.
Even in Austria. Even in Arnold Schwarzenegger land, where Marcus comes from. Again, the model is designed to do everything humanly possible, or as Thomas would say, divinely possible, to get the motherfucker closed. And, there's a lot of bells and whistles on the QLA model that didn't used to exist. Not just the webinars and stuff like that, which I still think I don't like, because they're crutches. Now, you're like the cartoons, the old, I'm trying to think of the cartoon, where you're all bandaged up, you got splints, you got a wheelchair, you got a tractor pushing you. But at the end of the day, you still have to make the call. That's the only thing that we haven't somehow manufactured. And we're not, as long as I'm doing it, it won't be that way. But so you gotta, because we wanted to, as I said, the two deals that Peter did were the first and second best deals in my 51 and a half year career I've ever seen when private equity was involved. I've never seen, and he did it for whatever reason. The stars, Allah, who gives a fuck, all lined up, and he got that money for nothing, without putting a gun in their fucking mouth. You saw him. There's no rhyme or reason that should have got done. None. Now he's having lunch with the president. So for whatever reason, the board, the chairman, the deal, Allah, somebody, that deal got done. And it's forever, the benchmark now. I've never even seen a deal even reasonably close to that good get done. But if you're going to involve the property in any of these deals, rarely, if ever, will the cash flow cover the debt service because of the valuation of the property. Yes, sir.
So for the medical practices, obviously you'd said in the past that the cash flow won't cover debt service if you purchase the property. So you'd want the option to maybe potentially purchase.
Well, no, I don't even bring up the option. Fuck it, you like the property, Doc? You keep it.
Perfect, even easier.
Yeah, you keep it, Doc. You like it so fucking much, you keep the fucking thing. Yeah. I'm one of the only guys that, as wealthy as I am, that didn't make any money on real estate. I don't believe in real estate. You know, the old saying used to be, God only made so much land. Fuck God. You know, what do you mean God only made so much real estate? If he was so smart, fucking prayer would work. So, I mean, there's a lot of misnomers, half-truths, myths out there. And QLA, when you follow the steps correctly, breaks many conventional wisdoms, many myths, urban myths. One, when your chairman says, where are you going to get the fucking money? Now, he won't say it that way. Well, that sounds very interesting. If I can add value, I'm subject to conflicts, I'm very interested. But just as an aside, have you considered the various sources of equity? Where are you going to get it? Now, that's nice saying it. Where are you going to get the fucking money, blue eyes? In New York, the guy, Harvey the Weasel, I explained to you, I told you about earlier. I'll tell you another story when we're not on camera. I brought one of my female mentees there. Hey, tits, where are you going to get the money? Just like that. Hey, tits, where are you going to get the money? Now, yes, it was the 90s, and yes, PC hadn't started. But that's pretty rough. And she didn't even have any fucking tits on top of it. I think she took it as a fucking insult. So you got to practice, guys. If you don't, you're not taking it seriously. And the more you practice, the smoother you get. Now, I'm told Andres is a smooth son of a bitch in German. I don't know that. I'm told your brother, it's hard for me to believe your brother's smooth at anything, but I'm told your brother is a smooth son of a bitch in German. I'm told, okay? The 9-foot Nazi in the back of the room, he tells me he's a smooth son of a bitch in German. I don't know. Just because he says he's smooth doesn't mean he's smooth. But the smoother you are, the more natural the words come off your lips, the better off you'll be. And, and yes, it's been relatively easy for me for 40 years because I've been a pretty good speaker. But I told you, there's a couple guys still alive at the Houston Petroleum Club where they threw plates at me. It started with rolls. The dinner happened to be unfortunately late. Then they threw their plates because they had no steaks on them yet. At me, speaking up here. Not up here, but then they start throwing cups at me. Now, I didn't see any knives come my way, but some of the guys in the audience said they were throwing knives at me as I'm running out the back of the door. Houston Petroleum Club. I remember it well. But when you make 200 speeches from Bangor, Maine to the Keys, from San Diego to Seattle, Washington, I got good at about 140, 150, 160 talks. I showed up at places, the audience, they have 500 people, 2 people be there. 2. 2, 4 eyes, Mr. Peepers. Asking the same fucking question, just like he. And they say, Mr. Peña, why are you here? The talk's not till tomorrow. We're here for another talk. My crack staff misscheduled me. I went to Dulles instead of Dallas before. Because God is my witness. I went to Dulles because of my crack staff. I'd like to blame it on these kids, but way before that. Dulles instead of Dallas. I'm in Southampton, England at a meeting, a presentation, and it's about 11 o'clock. I said, I'm going to have some lunch because my next meeting wasn't until 3. And I get out from lunch and I ask the driver, how long is it going to take us to get to Northampton? He takes the rearview mirror and he looks at me. Did you say Northampton, sir? That's 310 miles. Or you mean Southampton's not next to Northampton? I mean, I got 3 million pores and I've been fucked, most of them in the Netherlands. But I've got 3 million pores and I've been fucked every one of them at least twice. And I was prepared. I was always prepared. I'm always the most prepared guy in the room. If you just settle for one thing and say, well, this day forward, I'm going to be the most prepared for every meeting I ever attend, you're going to be a gazillionaire. And most of those 18, 20-hour days weren't giving presentation. It was preparation. There was no internet. I used to go to the library and microfiche. Do they still have microfiche? Okay. And I used to have them pull out the records for microfiche. So it's not that I was on the phone a lot, but I was preparing for the meeting. And unlike Jack Welch, who I believe, and I knew, God rest his soul, and he said he always tried to be the least prepared guy in the room. That's not true. Dr. Welch, PhD from MIT in chemistry, was always the most prepared guy in the room. Okay, now, these are the books. If you can't help yourself, and your wife won't have sex with you, and your girlfriend won't have sex with you, and God forbid that you don't leave your kids alone, don't touch them. I mean, and you can't do anything, and you have to read something. These books. E-Myth, the first E-Myth by Michael Gerber. That's my best attempt. That's supposed to be U squared. I don't know how to do U squared. That's close enough. The Adversity Quotient. Who Moved the Cheese? My $50 billion ebook. Your First 100 Million, which is online. Release Your Brakes. Winning Through Intimidation, the first one. The first edition, not the fifth or sixth. Tough-Minded Management and Leadership by Joe Batten. 2 different books, Tough-Minded Leadership and Tough-Minded Management. Think and Grow Rich. Coach Wooden's Pyramid of Success. If you can't help yourself, only a handful of the people up there have read any of these books other than mine. But I know you can't help yourself. It's like the nymphomaniac that's got to fuck 6, 8, 10, 12 times a day. These are not mandatory, but if you can't help yourself, these are the books. And my favorite are Release Your Brakes by my former mentor, Jim Newman, and The Pyramid of Success by Coach Wooden, who I happen to know, I knew him. But Who Moved the Cheese is a cute book. It's about 60 or 80 pages. But if you can't help yourself, if you're like the nymphomaniac. I would rather be the nymphomaniac, personally, but yeah.
What do you think about 48 Laws of Power? Is that
Who?
bullshit? 48 Laws of Power?
No, I don't know anything about
I
that.
don't know.
If I don't know about it, shit can it. How to Get Good to Great. Good is the Enemy of the Great. It's a book. I've never read it. Before we hear the last webinars, I'm spending a lot of time on practice because this is what you don't do. And even though I don't read your weekly reports anymore, it was obvious the last several months that I read the reports because I was still getting them. There was a huge lack of practice. Now one way of practice is making a bunch of bad presentations and learning by, getting hit in the head. I don't like that particular method. I'd rather be practiced up so I can start making sales, which means you'll start making money. The sooner you get proficient at this, the sooner you make money. And if you want to save the world and all that, fine. I'm not in the save the world business. If we save the world through you, God bless you. But that's not why I'm doing this, to save the world. I'm doing this to be the GOAT, greatest of all time, which I already am, and it's not likely that anybody's going to replace me in that arena. What'll probably happen when I'm gone, and they bury me up here on the hill in the walled garden, and I know as soon as I sell the place, they're going to unbury me and throw me in the fucking river. and so the initial possibility that I'll get buried up there is that somebody is going to resurrect QLA, call something else, do the same thing, and lie about the numbers like all the gurus do, and replace the methodology. But for the YouTube and for posterity, if the guys haven't done the numbers, I don't know why you're listening to them. That's the bottom line. Okay. Practice, practice, practice. Practice things until you can't get them wrong, not until you get them right. Practice things until you can't get them wrong, not until you get them right. And when they become second nature, when they become your vocabulary, when they become your default. And we have a few mentees that are like that now. And they also happen to be the wealthiest. Some of the billionaires that aren't here, you hear them talk, and it sounds like me, other than with a different voice. I mean, Andreas is along that road. I mean, he says a lot of the things that I say, except with a German accent. Okay? Now, one of the greatest practitioners of all time, and one of the superhuman beings, although he was an awful person, was Adolf. And again, as I said this morning, you confused the issue that high performance means that you're a good person. And the truth of the matter is high performance has got nothing to do with being good. It means getting shit done. And there are few people on the planet that have gotten as much stuff done as I have. And there's nobody on the planet that I'm aware of that can get you to do what you don't want to do. Don't want to pick up the phone to be all you can be. That's it. Your parents, Doc's parents, PhD from Princeton, didn't send him to school to be a salesman. I can categorically guarantee they didn't send you to all those years to be a salesman. Salesman? You mean like selling cars? So in the back of your mind, you know that. No matter what desperate life you came from, your parents would probably have you be a bank robber, a rapist, a murderer, than a salesman. And that's just the way it is. Whereas I cherish the fact that I'm a salesman. I'm a salesman that has honed his sales skills to selling governments. Big ticket. When most people don't realize that governments are the easiest to sell because they're the stupidest. They have a couple of problems, one of which is they got endless amounts of money, one, and two, they don't know what to do with it. Okay, YouTube, thank you.